Okay, it is still winter break, so the kiddo, is in the living room watching YouTube Minecraft videos, so I have the door closed. So I know that makes it sound a little odd in here, and we have the possibility of Chip coming up and banging on the door asking to be let in. I just let him out. And we also have the possibility of the child coming up to the door and asking for things. But we'll see how this goes. If you'd asked me last week, I would have said that this week's video probably would have been nothing. Because if you recall at the end of last week's video, I said probably not going to be any more customs until next year. With the joke that, ha ha ha, there's only like a week left until next year. But what I was thinking in my mind was, I have no idea when I'm going to have the creative urge to actually work on customs again. Turns out it was over the weekend. First though, that doll that I thrifted last week wearing the crocheted outfit, and I wasn't sure who would wear it. It fits a Dika doll cat very well, including a hole for the tail. And the underwear fits. Of course, the beret doesn't fit, which was pulled down to be, it looked more like a toque on the doll, but it is a beret. Of course, I've just been resting it on the cat. So that was a happy discovery that this Dika doll cat can wear it. And once again, it's a sunny day outside, so I have my reflector set up there, so the light is probably great, but it is dazzling. But some of these, the extra light might come in handy. Oh, I got this. The child actually got one that was green with pink and purple. Husband got these for us. He wasn't sure which one the kiddo would like more because the kiddo likes green and purple, but he was happy with the green one, so I got the purple. Pusheen. So, the customs I did. Well, first a little thing was I gathered some lace to make a sort of pseudo tutu for this. And this was actually molded. There's a place in the back to run a string through and sew it and tie it, because I know they originally had a simple little cloth skirt sewn on, but that's a little thing. Slightly less little is I modified that Bratz Kid's head to fit on a live body. I forgot though that this live body, I had repaired the neck. I don't know if you can see the slightly different color of plastic where I used sprue that didn't match perfectly. So this head flops, but it can stay in place if you don't move it too much. So, you know, I like putting heads from small dolls on larger bodies. And I mentioned in the photos that I posted that this dress was made by one of my aunts in the 80s who crocheted doll clothes constantly, and I kept some. I was a horrible person before, and I consciously got rid of a bunch of the things that she'd made that I didn't like so much. Of course, now I wish I hadn't. Because my thinking was, well, it's not really very realistic. But now that I have dolls that aren't very realistic, clothes that aren't very realistic, work on them. So that's her. I have a little bit of batting inside the hard plastic wig to try to make it fit better, and it just shifts it off in weird directions. But, like I said, this is a head from a little small doll on a larger body. But then when I was shuffling through, well, I'd taken the head off of that Briar Horse Rider body that I found last week, thrifted last week, and I was going through my heads box and think, you know, I kind of like the idea of putting a head from a larger doll on this smaller body. Like, I think of that, like, Anne Picaro has done a bunch of, like, the Little Mermaid on, I think, Pure Nemo body. So I thought, well, okay, a larger head on this Bright Horse Rider body. Nothing quite was what I liked the combination. So I thought, okay, maybe not. But the next morning I woke up and I thought, you know, I have this Juku Couture body that I've had for a while with the head off, waiting to find another head to put on it. And it's kind of an odd apricot color. Apricot. That doesn't really match anything else I have. But I thrifted those Creata Flower Princess Ballerina Liana dolls last week, who are also kind of an odd apricot color. So I wondered how one of those Creata heads would look on the Juku Couture body, and I think it looks pretty good. I've posted pictures and other people seem to think she looks pretty good too. Now I don't usually, like I said, I don't usually go for the big head look, but I do have some exceptions when, I mean, it's not as big when it's on this body. So putting a larger head in a smaller body does feel a little odd for me, or a head from a larger doll, but I think she works out because she's kind of childlike, kind of a fantasy. Although her hair is more blonde. Like I said, Lizette was my childhood, not this Lizette, but having Lizette in my childhood, the first doll I ever saw with purple hair, obviously made an impression on me. I picked up today the pink that I ordered so I can get back to dyeing my hair vivid colors again because I was out of pink. So I'm fairly happy with her, and I think you can tell that the skin tone match on the body is pretty good with the Creata skin tone on the head. Now the Creata dolls have that kind of Hong Kong clone style neck connector that's just a big sphere that the head goes down on, so it's sometimes hard to rig those up to work on regular doll bodies, like with a Barbie style neck peg. And this Juku Couture body had this really small, narrow neck peg. But I have a little tin full of odds and ends, bits and pieces that I keep that I think this could come in handy for neck adapters at some point in the future. And what I actually used on her, you can just barely see it there, I think. You can kind of see it sticking on the back. Is if you've ever adapted an old cut joint neck Ken head to fit on a more fashion doll style neck, the first thing you do is you cut off that flange that fits down in the Ken body. And I keep those flanges. And that flange, I warmed it up in water, hot water, to make it flexible, and it slid down over the Juku Couture neck knob, and it's perfect for this Hong Kong clone style spherical neck knob. So that was nice. And then, see, I don't know if I should do these in order or just, well, since I had Dremeled this a bit, and I can't remember the last time I used the Dremel, I decided, well, okay, I'm going to use a Dremel. I'm going to get some of those robot feet onto my robot doll. I decided to use the actual feet from the Fast Food Kids Meal Transformer figure, even though it had some hands that looked like they could also be feet, but the width wasn't right to go on these legs. Sometime in the future, somebody else is going to get those for their feet. But I spent time with the Dremel and then epoxy putty, and I still need to clean the putty up on the back of these because it's not very sleek and robotic, but I got Robo Feet on her. Like I say, you can see the epoxy still needs a lot of work to clean up in the back. But these feet are not coming off. And she does stand. And like I've said, I just need to figure out what to do back here. I don't know if I'm going to like sand it smooth or if I'm going to glue stuff all over it to look more like circuitry or robotic parts or something. Something to cover up the blobby epoxy. And then I will have to figure out what colors I want to paint her. This I'm going to leave in the tone it is. The same for the hands, but the rest I'm going to paint. Like I'm considering, since she comes apart, like taking off everything that can't come off, which I think is just her arms, and painting that a different color than painting the other things. Actually, I think she can pop. Yeah, I can unscrew her and pop her apart too, and the torso. I'm not sure if I want to go through quite that much trouble with her. But I said I want to make her kind of run down looking. I know that with scuffs and chips in her finish, but I'm not sure like if I want to make her all white it's gone grungy, or if I want to make her like light purple with white accents, or I'm not sure what I want to do with her. And of course there will also be the idea of hair to deal with eventually. I could just mold on like a head cap for her too, like I said. As with all of my projects, this is very make it up as I go along. But thanks again, big thanks to Queen of Squids for giving me the idea to find a thrift store, fast food, or other kind of Transformer toy to steal feet from. So, should get her done sometime in 2018. I don't think I'm going to have the big push to get her done before the end of the year because I have all this other stuff that I started that I would like to finish. Another thing I did, I was going through my box of bodies. I mean, that's when I remember the Juku Couture body. And my eyes fell on one of the Project MC Squared articulated bodies that I was very kindly sent. And I like the torsos, the arms are okay. I don't like their skinny legs and their large Bradzilla's size feet. And the doll I had done before getting Barbie legs onto that body, I actually cut it in half, cut two bodies in half and then grafted them together. So, but John did that also, and he did the much simpler thing of just taking the legs off the MC squared body and putting Barbie, old style gymnast Barbie legs, stringing those back on. So I had a doll with straight arms and the gymnast style high heel foot legs, and I got those on this body. It's strung a little tight, but she can hold some poses. It's just she also wants to kick out like that. Also, it's strung so tight that it's pulling apart. Because I originally thought that I would just take the legs off of their hinges and I boiled them to make them soft, and I was going to slice in, but when I was pulling off, it just popped the whole leg assemblies out of the bottom. So it's like, oh, that'll work too. But then I thought, well, what head will I put on this body? And actually in the body box, because it had been a work in progress earlier that I got frustrated with and abandoned, but I pulled it out and held it against this body and really liked the look of this clone head. Of course, the head wants to sit down really low on the neck because, again, she has that made to go into a sphere. But I like the look of this tan clone head on this body. So that means that I have to actually work on the rear root again, and I did. I got like 3/4 of the way around the head in the second row. But now that I have a body for her, I am more enthusiastic about doing this reroot and then rigging the head up so it actually fits on the body. But this is, again, a clone head I thrifted, and it's just the teal on her eyeshadow and eyebrows. It's just so ridiculous. I have teal I could use in her hair too, but I might do like side cuts since she's not rooted down to the ears. I might do a side cut in teal made by, I've seen other people, this is an idea I've seen online. I can't remember who I saw do it first, but they'll take a hank of doll hair and actually run the clippers over it, and the fuzz that falls down is really good for flocking. So I might do that for the teal side cuts on her hair. Or I might just paint them. Like I said, everything else I make it up as I go along. Let me put this back in the protective baggie. So when it came also to hair, I had a while ago, I decided I want to put a Cali Guy Blaine head that Ragamuffin Squad sent me. Thanks again. Well, she sent the whole body. We've actually discussed this. She had the head and the body, then she found them, and anyway. So I wanted to put this head on an Ertl Sportsman older action figure body because the color match is pretty good, but the Ertl Sportsman bodies are made for heads where the entire neck is molded into the head, and of course a Ken head does not do that. So I used epoxy putty to build up the neck, and I painted it badly, but again, I'm about the ideas, not the finish. And I wanted to get him put together, but he needed hair. Now Cali Guy Blaine originally has kind of fluffy, super dense blonde hair, and you know, that's not my thing. So I decided, well, you know, the fastest thing to do when you want to put hair on a doll is glue on some yarn. So I was going through my yarn, and I forgot I had cleared out my yarn a while ago, but also gotten some new yarns, including this gray. Where is it? Which I kind of like the naturally wavy look of this. Well, first I tried brushing it out, but it didn't make wefts that I wanted to use, and I didn't want them to have long hair anyway. So then I started messing around with it, and there's a small thread that wraps around the outside of this hair, this yarn, to give it the kind of wavy look, and then there's this heavier thread that goes down the center that sort of stabilizes it. So I separated this heavier thread and thought, what happens if you pull on it? And the answer is you get this really great kind of curly texture, which you can leave really dense, or you can kind of pull out apart a little bit. So I did that, and I got the tacky glue, which my tacky glue is ancient. It's super thick. I actually ended up taking the lid off and just sticking my finger in and spreading on my fingers because that was getting frustrating waiting for this old thick glue to run. And anyway, so here he is. Yes, it is salt and pepper gray. And this was one or two big pieces that I pulled up to make look curly. And then for the rest of it, I just used scissors to cut really, really tiny snips to make a flocking, more or less, to use in his hair. And then it's probably not something that is, this is probably something that other people know of, but since I hadn't seen it talked about before, it seemed like a revelation when the first time it occurred to me. After you glue yarn on for flocking, you don't have to keep it that way. You can trim it. You can take scissors and cut it because this flocking was sticking up a lot in all directions. So I trimmed that off. I trimmed some of the curly parts too. And I also, let me turn him around. I also painted his eyes, irises, and eyebrows to be darker because I like brown eyes. So everything else about his face paint is stock, and I did not change the shape or size of his eyebrows. I just went over it with darker paint, including the little bits on the inner edge. So I'm happy he is together, and I'm fairly happy the way it turns out. I was thinking with the glue hair, of course, when I'm finally ready to reroot him, I can just pull it off, but I have a feeling he's going to stay like this. So that's another project. And then there was Sunday, when I spent about 4 hours with the airbrush. Well, the first thing I airbrushed, I have nowhere near finished with this doll, but I've done this effect before. Do a gray base paint and then go over it with acrylic gold. If you know, acrylic metallic paints are nowhere near metallic. They're just like lightly tinted mica. So it's more of a pearl finish than actual metallic. But when you put it over the gray, I'm going to rotate it. I think it gets a really neat effect. Oh, I also heat reshaped these arms a little bit, including accidentally leaving a thumbnail print in the wrist. But this is the sort of modern, I don't know what we'd call this, the modern gymnast body, since it has the regular gymnast feet, but it's actually strung on. Yeah, but their legs aren't strung on, they're actually connected like modern Barbie legs. But the hands they have are just flat. They're even flatter than the old gymnast style hands, which are pretty flat. So I added a little bit of heat reshaping to them. I also went ahead and, since I had the burner on, the element on to do this, I reshaped a couple random gymnast Barbie body hands that I had laying around, because those are fun to paint too. I just did not paint any this time. You can see I did not pay a lot of attention to getting the gray over the backs of her knees. And this is the head. I have not uncovered her hair because I still need to put a clear sealant on everything. Her hair is, I don't know if you can tell through the bag, it's pink. So I don't know how I'm going to finish her, what I'm going to do with her, because, and as I've discussed before, for me, painting on top of paint is really nerve-wracking, because when I paint on top of bare vinyl, I do a lot of scraping off, and if I don't like it at all, I can just take acetone and wipe it all off and start over again. Can't really do it with paint on paint unless I want to go down and re-airbrush the whole thing, which I don't want to. So I have done this effect before on a custom I called Pyrite, which was a gymnast Barbie body. I think it also had high heel feet, more the old-fashioned gymnast body, with the head from the 14-inch Jackie Evanko doll. Only I repainted all this and gave her like black eyes and pointy teeth, and I thought she was a lot of fun, but she's in a new home now. So I have to figure out what to do with that. And then, oh, also this head's eyes, the pupils weren't quite the same size, so I actually added some to the pupil on this side. Now they're a lot closer to the same size than they were before. So something else I'd been wanting to airbrush for a while. I think I showed you a few weeks ago, maybe longer, I thrifted some cheesy little, well, I would say dinosaurs. One's a Dimetrodon, which we all know is not a dinosaur because they're like 40 million years before the dinosaurs. A Dimetrodon and a Stegosaurus. And I wanted to paint them in really silly, ridiculous, girly colors. And I did. But then I had a thought. It's like, I love this effect with the gold over the gray. I haven't tried the gold over any of the color yet. So my first thought was, do I want to try the gold over these pastel colors? But then I had another thought. No, I want to try pearl medium over the pastel colors. And I've tried to take pictures of this, and the still pictures didn't do it justice, so I'm hoping this video will. And if not, I will try. Well, I will try to take more still pictures anyway. I didn't have good lighting when I tried it. But I'm gonna rotate it so you can see. This one I painted the whole thing pink to begin with, and then I went over it with green, which you can see it's pink, fairly pink from this direction, but then I sprayed it green from behind. So as I rotate it this way, you can see some of the blue that I sprayed over it mixed with the pink to make purple. But from this way, it looks completely green. And then you've got the greens and pinks and blues again on this side. And then back to the front. I have no idea if the effect is showing up. Just the pearl medium on it just gives it this sheen. And my different airbrush colors kind of mimics color change paint, but not really. And then I brush painted the teeth just with straight pearl medium. No, I painted them white first and then went over them pearl medium. And the eyes are just black with gloss on it. I still need to clear coat, somehow put a sealant on this whole thing. Although I really think this pearl medium is fairly durable. It might not need a top coat. But I've been calling her Opal because I just love the way this looks, and I hope it's showing up in the video because I've talked about how much I adore this effect, and I don't know if I'm just coming across as weird. But that's the Stegosaurus and the Dimetrodon. And the Dimetrodon actually I painted first in the colors. Everything I pearl coated, and there's two more beyond these. I did all at once. But another thing I've always loved about these cheesy old dinosaur figures is the haphazard, sloppy way they're airbrushed. It's just like a blast from one side, and it's bad, but it's also interesting because parts of it will block off and almost form like light, like hard shadow, only it's airbrush. Anyway, so I did that with this lady. She was base coated in green, which you can see green from this direction, very green. But then from the back, I'm going to rotate her, I blasted her lightly with pink. So you see from this direction, she's fairly pink. And from the sides, can you see the way the pink and green interact on the sail? I just love this. I'm very happy with this. There's a little bit of blue on the tail, but I decided that I didn't want to do overkill on my pearlescent dinosaur. Pearlescent pastel, not a dinosaur. And again, I painted the teeth white and went over it with pearl coat, and I painted the eyes black with gloss over it, and I still need to put a top coat on, which probably means I will be re-glossing the eyes after I do that. But I have tried this before, adding that extra layer of paint, trying to make it that contrast overspray color, but I'm always too heavy-handed with it. So I'm really glad that I had a light enough touch with this. And I'm just so happy with my pastel prehistoric ladies. So of course I'm hoping to find more of these big dinosaurs. Or, you know, I'll take giraffes and elephants and real animals just in this size too. I'm not going to keep them all for myself. I probably will make these available for sale or trade eventually, depending. I mean, if I put the top coat on them, it could completely ruin everything. The Purity Seal we have, and they're vinyl, so I do need to use something that's not harmful to vinyl, that doesn't make vinyl tacky, which Purity Seal does not make vinyl tacky, but the Purity Seal is also very flat. And I don't know if a flat top coat would just kill the sheen from the pearl finish completely or what. So I might just top coat these with something in the airbrush. And I just remembered I was going to look for more satin and gloss varnish today, but I got distracted looking at the effects, metallic effects, acrylics, and the actual color shift acrylics in the paint section, craft paint section at Walmart. But I'm trying not to spend money, so I didn't buy any of those today. And then another doll that I airbrushed completely and then did the pearl finish on. I actually realized I'm getting close to 500 subscribers. Thank you, every one of you. So I need to look into the rules for doing a YouTube giveaway. And so I decided what's more me. I mean, if you're watching my videos, you like something about them. And what's more me than a vintage doll that's been kicking around my parts bin for years, is not now, never has been worth anything, that I just go overboard with on customizing. And all I've done so far on this one is the airbrushing, the base coat, some accent color, and the pearlescent. I will give her more face paint and clean up her eyes because there is paint overspray on the eyes, and make a wig for her and make clothes, but this will probably be the giveaway doll. Hold on, there's something there. Anyway, it's this gal. She's so lightweight. Normally when I airbrush a doll, we have the airbrush booth with the filters and the ventilation, and we finally got a Lazy Susan to put in it, and there's always like, I don't know why we have this ancient like styrofoam coffee cup from a fast food place. I don't drink coffee. And we've always been putting it upside down, and I just put the dolls on top of that, like with arms and elbows and knees bent so I can get into the nooks and crannies with the airbrush. Just put the dolls on top of that and airbrush them flat. But this doll is so lightweight that as soon as I hit her with the airbrush, she just flew away. So I actually had to hold her. And yes, I had green paint all over my fingers, and my husband says, you know we have gloves. It's like, yeah, but I was already doing this. Oh, anyway, so there are parts of her head that are the original plastic color because my fingers were in the way, but she will be wearing some sort of wig. I don't know if I'm going to try that fake fur thing that I was doing over last spring. We're giving everybody fake fur beehives. Some sort of hair for her. She is very much a rose, I think, and I will do face paint for her. And if I reach 500 people, I will see about if any of you want a home, I will do a giveaway. But then there was one more doll, and I had been holding on. I didn't know what I wanted to do with this. Months ago, I thrifted a Disney Palace Pets cat, and her batteries were dead, so she didn't light up. And I took her apart. I took the head off. The body, I think, is still in the random parts bin somewhere. And I wanted to put this cat head on a doll body. And it's big enough that it would have worked with a Barbie body, it would have worked with a smaller body. But finally I realized that the Breyer horse rider body, the one that I was unable to use that led to this hybrid, that would be perfect for this cat body. So I finally sat down and figured out what I needed to do, exactly what I needed to cut out from the inside with my trusty plastic stips, sprue cutters. So I didn't have to use a Dremel, and I used some bread tabs to give things tension and fit, and then the head is hard plastic, and I had broke it open to get the LEDs and batteries out. So I put it back together and I plastic welded it so it's very firmly one piece. And then the whole time I was airbrushing everything else, I had this doll laying there thinking, I don't know what color I want to make her. So I airbrushed everything else. All right, this is the last thing I'm going to airbrush today. I just do this, then I can be done, because I'd been standing there for a while and starting to, I wanted to be done, but I wanted to do it first. I didn't want to just stop, because that's how my brain works. And so another thing that I discovered when I did the airbrushing Sunday was that all the paints I had mixed up like over the summer and then sealed them in jars, because I love jars. Some of them are fine, like this gold that I mixed up was just fine. Some of them, they really stunk when I opened them up. So, you know, obviously things sitting in sealed jars untouched for a long time, probably I should have expected that things could have gone bad. So I threw out a bunch of the paints and mixed some more up for this session of painting. It's like, especially the blue that I used on this, and barely any on this. I hadn't used much, I hadn't mixed much. So I'm trying to get better about mixing small amounts. And I actually, the pearl medium I mixed to use as a top coat, I actually mixed almost the perfect amount, which that's unusual for me. So I had this little bit of blue paint and considerably more of the pink paint that I had used, but I didn't want to make this doll this pink, the Metrodome butt, and this paint pink. I mean, obviously I was using it on a lot of things, and I might still use it when if I ever finally get around to airbrushing and painting that Hujo Freya cat and, you know, Mirodon Mika, although we actually need warm weather so I can put a base coat spray on them. Anyway, so I had the pink, and there's quite a bit of the pink, but I had this tiny amount of blue. So I thought, you know, pink and blue make purple. So I just started mixing. I'd pour the pink into the blue and shake it up, and trying to get it to a point where it was a color that I liked. And I got there, and I sprayed the cat with it. I was like, well, I've done it. This is where we are. I'd mixed too much water into the pink, so it wasn't drying very well. But I remembered that the only hairdryer in the house that we have is down there by the airbrush booth, so you can make stuff dry faster. So I dried it off, and I was able to get all the coats of paint on to cover the whole body, and it was okay. But then there's like molded hair and stuff on the cat, so I decided, all right, I'm gonna take some of this green that I had mixed up and just do the quick, not mask it off, just do quick airbrushing over that. And also, you know, she has a nose and the inside of her ears and cheeks. I'll go ahead and use more of that pink that I have so much of and spray those. And it was okay. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm gonna pearl coat this thing. And I did. And I really liked it. But then I looked at it for like a day or so. It's like, I need to paint the eyes. I need to paint the eyes. I don't want to paint the eyes. I need to paint the eyes. So finally I pulled up some images of vintage shoujo style comics, and I really fast just did some quick brushes. So it's kind of like the pose doll eyes too, and then dots with various size things to use for dotting. I overdid the eyelashes. I always overdo the eyelashes. And this is not done because I still need to, again, probably need to do a top coat on it, although like I said, I think this pearl medium is pretty tough. And I think I'm going to try to apply an actual set of fake eyelashes to it. Anyway, I still don't know about the eyes. Here she is. Can you see? I'm going to move her. You see the green on the back of the head. It's a little bit of the airbrush overspray appearance, but not a whole lot. But I love the airbrush overspray look. If I'd thought about it, I would have done some blue, saved some of the blue to do eyeshadow for her, but this is fine. So I love this purple with the pearl on it and the green with the pearl on it. And it's going to be really hard for me not to do everything with the pearl coat on top. And so, yeah, that's all the customs I thought I wouldn't be doing until well into next year. And I just got the urge to do it last weekend. But obviously there's still a lot of things to work on. Like, so much to do on her. Although I'm not going to glue this on until everything else is painted. And the reroute and face details on her and the entire face on her and top coats for everybody, but I hope it was entertaining at least, and I'm going to try to get more pictures up. Like I said, I've gotten really fast pictures. My stage photo backdrop set is full of cloth scraps right now, and I really need to clean that up. But there's still a million things that I want to sew for me, for the kid, for dolls, for other people's dolls. And I have been sending out queries to the people to whom I owe doll sewing, my big pile of thanks sewing, because I think I am about ready to start mailing that stuff out. I wanted to wait until the Christmas rush was over, just to be nice to the post office. Although I suspect I'm going to start separating things into piles and think, that's not enough, I need to make more. But I'll do it when I do it. And have a happy new year. Thanks.